A lot of these businesses take a lot of capital. They're not profitable day one. So understanding sort of where you want to land from a financial standpoint that'll make yourself sustainable over time, a sustainable business model, because you have the effective gross margin. And also understanding, again, it goes back to the earlier point of really understanding who you are.
Sam Frankfort, excited to have you to be able to sit down and get some time in your day. We've had the pleasure of working with you through a couple brands, and I want to talk about that, kind of see how things are going, have a check-in. First off, just like in your own words, tell us what you're doing there at Benvolio Group, kind of like mission, what you're working with, what's going on.
Sure, happy to. And Prentice, thanks for having me, and Bethany, nice to meet you today. So we're the Benvolio Group. It's a family office. There's three of us. My pops, Lou Frankfort, ran Coach for 35 years, my whole life basically, until we set up the family office. We're in our 10th year of business. Actually, we just have our lease renewal come up, actually, so that kind of marked it. But it's been an amazing decade, or almost decade of doing this full time. I would say that the lion's share of our time is focused on looking for brands in the consumer space that are disruptive and differentiated. I mean, we call our mantra sort of investing in disruptive consumer-facing brands. Obviously, that stems a lot from, Lou's background and leveraging him and his expertise and learning from him. And, that's led us on some, wonderful journeys, some challenging journeys. And, after about 10 years, some of the deals predate us officially forming, and I can get into a little bit of that, but I would say we have a portfolio of around 55 or 60 companies where we're directly on the cap table. We probably spend, the top 10 to 12 of those are the lion's share of the time and capital. So our involvement ranges from, board level involvement to real strategy, weekly meetings, helping build out the teams, shape strategies of the businesses, go to market, etc. So we're having fun most of the time.
Let me start with just like level set on kind of what's going on in your life at the moment, like with everything you're doing personally and professionally, all the hats you're wearing, what's giving you energy right now?
Well, besides the kids at home and the personal stuff is always it's a priority, but it's it brings me a lot of joy. It's really spending time with the entrepreneurs and being on the journey with the teams, helping both build the teams, but also help affect change and drive the teams forward. So we have a handful of really great situations that I'm super excited about right now. And it's, we've talked about it previously, but it's really about the journey. So it's finding people like you on these journeys, and we can get into some of the work that we've done together. But it's really Monday through Sunday, like this is your second life. These companies become sort of family. We're family capital, but we're also like, we consider ourselves founder friendly, and we like to sort of help people avoid pitfalls that we've run into in the past in previous companies, and help them achieve ultimately the success that is in front of them, and also that we believe can be attained.
I'd love to know how you make decisions about new deals, new companies to invest in. We have something called the focus filter at door number 3. So just as we're considering new opportunities, it's like 6 pieces of criteria that we run. Would love to hear your thoughts on what is your version of a focus filter.
First it starts with people. We try to underwrite, good people, and whether that's founders that are looking to kind of build out a management team, or the management team that we believe can execute on sort of the vision of the business. We try to have a, no asshole policy, excuse my French. I mean, it's really important because, as I mentioned, it becomes second families. You're spending a lot of time, and through adversity, you want to deal with good people. And oftentimes you do kind of come up against some adversity, even in the best situations. And then, I think, again, Prentice deals with this, you guys deal with this at door number 3, but it's really finding a situation, and we do invest in a lot of challenger brands. And those are brands, obviously, that are taking on large TAMs, where people have a disproportionate amount of market share at the top. You're coming in with a differentiated proposition where you think, a reason to exist, but not only a reason to exist, a reason to thrive. And so I would say people, the opportunity set, and it all sort of dovetails from there.
I love what you just said, not just a reason to exist, but a reason to thrive. That's cool. And I never heard it said that way, but I can identify with that. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So cool. I'd love to know too, some of the qualities that you've seen in those challenger brands, or, any other brands in the portfolio that you see, the ones that succeed and the ones that don't thrive to the degree that you wish that they would. What are some qualities that you've seen that kind of take those up to the top?
It doesn't always start this way, but I'm thinking about the question and dwelling on it a bit when we sort of talked previously. I would say they know who they are. The brands know who they're going after. In the challenger space, for example, like they know what they stand for. So Prentice will bring it up, or I'll bring it up now, but like Mawk is one of the brands that I'm heavily involved in. Where Prentice and you guys at Door Number 3 have done an incredible job really putting us on the map with the creative. But, we are the healthiest for you plant-based milk. We are simple ingredients. We have 6 SKUs. We just launched a holiday nog, which I recommend everyone try. It's my favorite, with the organic maple syrup. But we are not trying to be Califia or Oatly and put in additives and emulsify the beverage. We are trying to sit at the top of the funnel. The consumer's coming our way, and we stand for something that's meaningful for consumers. It doesn't mean it's going to be everyone. We're never going to be the cheapest on shelf because we're not going to compromise sort of our ingredient deck. We're always going to be organic. It sort of ebbed and flowed in terms of how we ended up here. But now the story is palpable because we have really defined who we're going to be, who we are, where we're going. It affects everything we do. So I think really trying to understand where you sit within that landscape. Another one I love to talk about, and again, we failed many times, so we can get into that as well. But Body Armor is one where, I was on the ride with that team, Mike Rapoli, Tom Hadley, Fideli, all those guys at Body Armor. A lot of them were at Vitamin Water prior, and they were disrupting the sports drink industry. From, let's call it the top of the first with one out, when Mike jumped in, they had squarely in their sights Gatorade. And here was Gatorade in a $10 billion category that had 90% market share. And nobody had really come in and penetrated. Yeah, water was taking a little share, maybe energy a little bit here, but nobody had done it in a healthier way. And the consumer was moving and becoming more health conscious. And they just purely, like Mike had the goal of, hey, we're going to take X percent of market share over this many years. And it was just a mantra. And the team believed, and he was super aggressive, and he achieved it. But being on that 10-year journey, and it doesn't happen overnight, that's one of the other things, right? Like, it takes time and it takes building blocks. And you can't rush it. You have to be methodical. But, understanding where you sit and what you're trying to do is critical.
How much do you struggle with resisting temptations to do more? There's always you could add SKUs. You could start doing different things very quickly. As with Malka as an example, it's very focused. It's very simple. There are only a handful of SKUs, and yet you could be doing a lot more. Do you have these conversations internally a lot where you're having to resist temptations that are out there to...
Yeah, it's a great question. I think staying disciplined, being fiscally responsible in terms of, margin dollars, being able to build a lasting business, right? Like, a lot of these businesses take a lot of capital. They're not profitable day one. So understanding sort of where you want to land from a financial standpoint that'll make yourself sustainable over time, a sustainable business model, because you have the effective gross margin. And also understanding, again, it goes back to the earlier point of really understanding who you are. Like, we could try to go down a protein route or try to do some collabs. But right now, we're underpenetrated. We're just getting into MULO from a mock standpoint. In terms of Publix, we had a national rollout just this past year. We're looking to expand those doors. So it's really trying to understand we will have innovation over time. We're never going to have 100 SKUs, I can't imagine, but we will bring newness to categories. We're also tweaking our formulas within our ingredient deck to make sure that we continue to be flavor forward, that we taste great. So there's always iteration. We have innovation, as we spend a good amount of money on innovation per year. But we're not going to introduce that, and we're not going to introduce anything that isn't in keeping with the brand and sort of our vision of what Mock stands for.
You guys are really disciplined about doing something really well before you give yourself the permission to do other things.
That gives you credibility with consumers, right? Like, that gives you credibility with our audience. We obviously have our core consumer, but what we've seen over the last year or so is a lot of people are entering the Mock franchise because they're looking for something that we're offering, right? Like, they're getting educated. Part of the work that Door Number 3 has done, the farmers market campaign, which I recommend you throw up there, and also all this hey, our backside is our best side, really understanding some of the stuff that is in our competitors, right? Like, in terms of their ingredient deck, the oils, the fillers, the gums, all that stuff, which emulsifies the drink. Because we'll have questions like, oh, why isn't your drink creamier? It's actually, you don't, or why does it not settle? The reality is you don't want that to be the case, right? Because that's stuff that's bad for your gut. People think that just because they're going plant-based, they're healthy, but really that's not the case. And so you partnering with people like yourselves, having an amazing lead in marketing, Thomas, who you guys work, obviously very closely with, understanding that education piece. And that was Body Armor too, educating the consumer on sort of what was in Gatorade and why we're healthier, right? All natural, that 10% coconut water, that differentiator is a reason why maybe you can command a premium, right? We're never going to be 99 cents on shelf because we're actually paying for real ingredients. And that involves some education. Otherwise, you're going to, people are not going to understand why, that price premium.
I feel like there are brands out there that are very proud. They're like, oh, we've grown and no advertising and no marketing. It's like, well, not really. I mean, have you educated? Have you had to educate the marketplace? Yeah. Well, then that's actually marketing. I mean, a lot of what this is not marketing in the kind of like just spending dollars and creating shiny objects to make people laugh. But it's like the onus is on you as a brand to educate, to explain. Like you said, people are loading up their carts with Almond Breeze, Silk, and Oatly, and they think they're doing something great for their body, and frankly they're not. It becomes your obligation, right, as a brand, have to educate people about healthier decisions. And so that's
100%. I mean, you couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
We've taken that on as a mission, right? And we've partnered with other brands, and that's part of our messaging. We've stayed consistent with that. That's how we like to to spend our dollars. What's hard about the CPG category in general, a lot of the online advertising, when you're driving people to your site, it's obviously easily measurable, right? Like, I get a lot of questions of people like, how do you measure the success of the dollars that you're spending, right? Those are conversations that obviously you have with Thomas and we have as a board and a team. And the reality is, yes, we need to find ways to quantify the spend. You want to justify the ROI. But a lot of it is the halo marketing. It's the education. It's creating the brand voice. Obviously, nothing measures the dollars more than sales, right, at register.
Yeah.
So we try to be creative, and Thomas is excellent about that. But yes, there is certainly an education that is involved with our marketing. That's really in all of it. The Bad Additive series on TikTok, Bad Additives, some of the real creative stuff that our team has done and our partners have done, like yourself, to really educate.
Sam, Bethany had asked about, characteristics of a winning brand or things you look for that are, these signs of a winning brand, who you want to partner with. But you also just mentioned it. Not everything's been great, and everything you've worked on has been great. Take us to a time and place when it was hard to get out of bed because something was going on that just was eating you up inside.
One of the things that I'm focused on, both with the team here, but with our portfolio companies, it's enjoying the ride, right? Like enjoying the good moments. And, over the last 10 or so years, we've failed on multiple occasions. And it just feels like you spend way more time suffering through your pain points and, dealing with those situations than you do celebrating your victories. And so that's something that I just think in general, people need to enjoy the journey, especially when it's good, but also just, the monumental moments on a company's life cycle when you're on that ride. But yeah, I mean, there have been moments where I've had sleepless nights, sleepless weeks, even sleepless months. It largely stems around having the wrong people. So when I go to the, and that's life lessons, when you're dealing with just the wrong people around the table, because it's a lot easier to deal with issues, and there are issues even in companies that are going up, right, that you're going to deal with the right people around the table. A lot of them have stemmed just from, either having the wrong people, the wrong partners, both on the cap table, but also in the C-suite, and then also not having capitalized the businesses when you can. And so really raising the money, from a position of strength, and then being in a position where you're sort of upside down from a P&L standpoint, and you need to find the capital, and it's just not available in different markets. There have been a lot of those in both cases. And that's why, through pattern recognition, which is so much of this game for you and for anyone that's successful, Lou in particular, he's seen a lot of patterns. And so you try to leverage that, and you try to instill that in the companies that may not have as much experience, so that they can see the path, you can help form them on your experiences. And I'd say that's the most valuable thing for me. And again, I like to think that I'm just getting started, but have been doing this, officially for 10 years, and, 5 years or so before that is really, you're getting better with age because you've been around the hoop more and you've seen situations before. And so that helps, my experience, even being in the, let's say a courtside seat of Body Armor, has helped us on the mock journey. Just because, you see, when you see success, that's why second time founders are, they're easier to raise capital than first time founders, right? Because they've seen it. But it's key to learn from those experiences.
Do you feel, when you talk about people, when it didn't go well, did you not identify that you had the wrong people, or do you feel like you were too patient? Is it a question of just showing too much patience, or that you just feel blindsided that, man, I thought I had the right person, but I didn't? What's been your journey there with people in general in terms of getting the right people on the bus at the right time?
It's a great question, and the short answer is probably both in different situations, as I sort of run through them in my mind, and with not trying to throw anyone under the bus. So I'll keep them out of this conversation. But yeah, like certainly hiring the wrong people to run the business, and you've made a major bet and then it goes sideways, and you're sort of like, you either kept them too long, or you're sort of so in bed with them that it's very hard to make a change, especially when adversity hits, because it's very hard to hire someone into an adverse situation, right? And then on the other side of it, it's sort of just not being bamboozled, but you think you're investing behind person X, and as soon as the dollars hit and things start to, as you get to know them, they're not who you thought they were. And you're sort of, you kind of got fooled at the altar, so to speak. And that's why, to be honest, when we do find the right situation and things are going well, we continue to double and triple down on those types of situations in terms of additional dollars going in, because we're inside the tent, we know what's going on, and we are very familiar with the team, the trajectory, the roadmap. Those are the situations where we tend to get the biggest in terms of our investment dollars, because you can avoid A and B, right? The person that you hired that was the wrong person because you already know who's in there. Or, you didn't get, obviously if you get bamboozled, you're not going to continue to support them. So that's a key ingredient, I think, to our success, that I think a lot of people probably already know that, but it's really doubling and tripling down on the winners. And we've done that with Mock, we did that with Body Armor. And those are just two examples.
In those situations, how do you get yourself back up? Because I think what we do is we get the voice inside our head and it's just like you beat yourself up. We all take all these things very personally. It's all things we've been through. But like, what do you do to get through that and just shake it off? I think about quarterbacks that are so good at, like, remember Brett Favre? He would get sacked like over and over. And then he would stand up and he'd just like compartmentalize the whole thing and put it behind him and make an awesome throw. And it's like, how do you do that? That is so difficult because we carry that stuff with us,
Yeah, and I think you use the right word, the compartmentalize. That's a Lou word. It's important to just attack it methodically, one day at a time, sort of one milestone at a time, to try to get things back on track. Listen, we failed and the businesses haven't continued. And then we've also been in failure mode and we've gotten to the other side and to the promised land. So we've seen it both sides. Sometimes it's out of your control. What is in your control is how you act. It is compartmentalization, but it's also one day at a time, one task at a time, putting your list together, knocking things off, trying to understand how to get to next. It's also trying to bring in, if you don't have the right people around the table, trying to find those people, whether that be consultants or, third parties or whatever, trying to get the right energy around, sort of the journey, I think is critical. And also, one thing that you mentioned before in terms of just the right people and, not moving fast enough, or, when you don't have the right leader. One of the things that I've been told, which I think has held true through my experiences, it's never too early to do the right thing for the business. That was a saying that sort of we live by here. And that was born off doing the right thing from a people standpoint. If you know the answer, you know that eventually you're going to probably get there. You move on it quicker, you're probably the business will be in a better position. I just wanted to kind of go back and make sure that was sort of out there, because I do think that's the case, right? Like, if it's not working, yes, you can try to fix it, but like, you should probably move quicker than and it's hard because it's the human condition, but sometimes it's the best thing for that person, for the business, and for the long-term health of the business.
We talk about challenger brands a lot, but what Prentice and I talk internally and then even on the show often about is the humans behind the challenger brands, like the people who are leading the brand forward, the executives. In our case, a lot of times it's the marketing executives who are making those real-time calls. That expands more into just you as a human, you as a leader, and how you're constantly leaning into growth. I'd love to shift a bit to just talking about your own personal growth and some of the things that you're committing to, even as you look in your next 10 years of your work life. What are some of those areas that you're leaning into, that you're getting sharper at in an intentional way?
It's really continuing to lean in. I think in the initial part of Benvolio's journey, we did a lot. We invested in a bunch of different businesses and sort of were active in let's say, many different businesses in many different capacities. I think in this next period, I think we want to go deeper, make fewer investments, but have them be more meaningful. And again, we don't necessarily have a mandate, but really finding the businesses that you can really be on the journeys with, that we can really help based on, our past experiences. Lou's heavily involved in a few businesses. My other partner, Ernest, is heavily involved in a few businesses, and I'm heavily involved and we overlap in a few, but really being on the journey and getting deep with businesses and helping them, not just, looking at quarterly financials and looking at decks, but really getting deeply involved is the fun part. And that's what I've experienced with Mock, but it's where you can have the biggest impact. It's the work that I enjoy the most, is getting deep and helping, having a handprint on, sort of the people around the table and building the team. And then just continuing to evolve as a person professionally, it's obviously through experience and pattern recognition and always being curious and wanting to learn both, within the existing industries that we're in, but also new industries, right? If you're going to focus on challenger brands, disruptive consumer businesses, industries that are going to be born or going to grow substantially over the next handful, let's say the next decade, as you said. So you want to just kind of continue to be on the forefront, and that involves talking to a lot of people, being curious, reading all the the obvious things, but some of the stuff that sort of is available to everyone, but people kind of don't necessarily focus on it day to day.
It seems like every brand you're associated with and want to be associated with is bringing good into the world. Not that you'd ever consider working on tobacco and gambling, but I mean, if you look at like your portfolio and the brands you're working with, they really are bringing something good into the world. Is that it's really important to you guys, isn't it?
I think, again, not all the 60 companies, I think you could say are fall in that category. Certainly the ones that we have a disproportionate involvement in. Like, obviously, listen, if we can get involved in mission-driven businesses, that's music, and that tends to check that additional box. It's not a mandate, but it's certainly something where it certainly feels good, and it's something where we lean into. So yes, I mean, that's certainly a positive when we're sourcing deals and looking for businesses. But also it could be just getting involved with nice people and good people and business people that we want to help. So a recent investment that we actually just recently closed on is a company called Bog Bags, BOGG Bags, which Lou's going to be heavily involved in. It's an injectable moldable bag started by an entrepreneur, a profitable business. There's just a lot of low-hanging fruit in that business, and it's motivating Lou because obviously he has some experience in the accessories category, but also it's exciting because we've assembled the right team around the founder. And so that's one where, again, the brand is bigger than the business, although the business is fairly large. And it's one that he's going to enjoy the journey of building teams, recruiting talent, and helping the business realize its potential. So some of it is, yes, the business is obviously selling a healthier for you plant-based milk when the competition, the Oatlys, the Calefias have all these additives is great, right? And there's a reason for us to yell from the rooftops why we're better, and we certainly stands for something. And then on the other side of it, it's really helping an entrepreneur realize her potential in a brand that she's created that's very powerful.
By the way, Lou, you said Lou, that's your dad for anyone that's listening and doesn't know, but he's amazing. He's the Energizer Bunny, just like so much energy and enthusiasm.
We never worked together until this venture. I mean, I was an intern to coach for maybe a couple summers. I'm not sure that really counts. To really, people say, yeah, what makes your dad so successful? And I call him Lou just because I don't know, he's Lou, or maybe Louie sometimes, but let's say Lou at work, and it's really his curiosity, his intellectual curiosity. And you've seen Apprentice, like when you're pitching businesses or we're looking at your work or going through door number 3's capabilities, like he's dialed in. I mean, he's super curious, not only about sort of, necessarily the work that you're presenting to us, but all of your capabilities, and then also asking you about other brands. That's a key factor to continuing to evolve, is curiosity.
Yeah, it comes through, and I admire that, and it's something I think we all try to work on because that's what keeps you going. I think if you stay curious, the moment you lose curiosity, things get stale. Yeah. So yeah, he's big on that.
For sure.
We did talk a little bit right at the start of the conversation about your health journey. I would love to hear, because back to the point about how you, over the next decade, are growing as a leader, I'd love to just hear how you prioritize your own health, just physically, of course, other areas, mentally, emotionally, all of those things. But it sounds like your physical health is at the top of your priority list. And yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I think it would encourage other people listening who are figuring out how to.
Yeah, I think we started our conversation today by saying I was out Monday, I was out Tuesday, and I take my kids to school early in the morning during the week, or at least most of the days, and I needed to cancel my meeting after this recording to go get a workout. It's like it's midweek, and typically I'm in the gym Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and sort of maybe tails off during the end of the week. But if I don't get that done, if I'm not, that's where I work on both obviously staying in physically and try to stay in as good shape as possible in my mid 40s, but also mentally, it's where I'm able to sort of work on myself as well. So it's, and the camaraderie in the gym, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from being around people. Obviously there's a fair amount of Zooms. I prefer in-persons, but being in the gym with other people, and I have my crew there, it's a great mental sort of exercise, and also obviously the physical exercise. And curiosity is one way to keep your mind strong. Meditation's another one, and many different ways. But I think there's nothing more important than keeping physically fit, because I think that has an impact, on the mental well-being as well. So it's something, I'm 4 to 5 days a week consistently. And sometimes you got to prioritize it over sort of, and again, I'm fortunate, right, being in a situation where I can kind of control my schedule and other people can't, but prioritizing it over other things is key for me. So whether that be a meeting, a meal, family obviously takes precedent, and the kids, really trying to get it in whenever you can is critical.
It is critical. I'm just up the road from Nike. It was interesting. I did a tour of the campus in the fall, and just hearing about the culture of the fact that you're able to leave at any point in the middle of the day to go get your workout in.
Yeah.
Any of the employees, of course, there's incredible world-class gyms there, but just the culture is pretty fascinating, and to give that permission to employees to say, we value, your help this much. And to your point, in other company cultures who can't control that, maybe they don't have that same flexibility, but pretty neat from a
I'll give you another example. Like I dropped my daughter 94th and Central Park West. I'm here in Manhattan. My office is in Columbus Circle. Like I'll look at my day, that's an 8:15 drop off. Either I'll have a call, I start my day 8:30 or whenever, but I'll, throw my AirPods in and I'll walk, those 2.5 or 3 miles, especially if I know that I have a commitment later that evening, and I'll just try and walk, even to get the steps in. Obviously, we all have our devices that we're measuring. I like to quantify my day by my steps, but, even trying to work, get that walk in, even when you're on the phone or when you're doing a call, or you have that early morning where you have a few extra minutes to take, not jump in the subway or a cab or wherever, or Uber, and actually take that walk is a great tip.
Totally. It's becoming more common too, I think. I think COVID changed a lot of that, of course, the habits of everyone and their relationship to work. But it is a little more normal to say, I'm going to take the call on a walk and move my body instead of sitting on 8 hours of Zoom calls.
Yeah. And of course, there are wonderful podcasts to listen to as well if you don't have a call.
Yes. Yes.
True. Well, Sam, man, thank you. This has been great, and keep inspiring us, keep doing great work, keep bringing great brands out into the world. We just appreciate getting to hear from you. So thank you.
I appreciate it, Bethany and Prentice, very much. Obviously, we're working on a fair amount of portfolio companies together, and that's how we met. And I would just say the work that you guys have done has really been, it's world class. I mean, we've worked with a lot of different agencies, so we appreciate how supportive you've been, but also how you stick with it. And it's not just, one exercise. You sort of have lived with us on these journeys. It's a great partnership, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mutual. More fun ahead.
Yeah, for sure. You got to enjoy
your workout.
Enjoy the journey.
Yes.
Exactly. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.
To you.
Have a great one.
Enjoy your workout. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.